We made it. It's the Super Bowl.
2 inches short, maybe less. Story of my life.
It's
been a while since he's seen a hole that big.
If you say he's a bust and you end up right, it's not because you're some genius. It's because you got lucky.
How I feel, man? Tell me how I feel, El Freaky.
We prayed that these perk 30s would nourish us and allow us to throw the ball.
They got to go get this bread.
If you suck, you might as well suck with purpose. And so...
That might be the most efficient hook that's ever been devised on a podcast ever. That's incredible. But we made it. We did. We are here, Adam. The Super Bowl is right around the corner. The New England Patriots versus the Seattle Seahawks. Oh, boy.
Exactly what we all expected from the beginning of the season.
We perfectly predicted this. We definitely were not completely out on Seattle during the offseason.
Of course not. Only a madman would have been out on Seattle.
You course corrected
Sam Darnold
very quickly, though.
We both did. It was literally like the next week.
the next week,
I definitely during the season though. I really quickly course corrected.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that this is going to be an incredible matchup. It's an incredible Super Bowl. I think that everyone who is talking about how this is one of the worst Super Bowls in history, how this matchup, these aren't the two best teams, yada, yada, yada. I think all of those people just can't swallow a pill. Like, I think that they need, that their ego is just too big. Did that make any sense, what I just said?
Kind of. I got the gist of it. I think the people at home
they can't
understood.
Swallow a pill? I think I just made that up. I think I just mixed like multiple...
There were like 4 different things that you mixed together somehow. That was impressive.
Oh my gosh. But anyway, the point is I do think that this is going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a good matchup. I think that, and I think it's going to be a lot closer than how some people are treating this.
I think that in terms of a broad overview of a Super Bowl, and this is a little bit before our time, but I think people need to have a bit of perspective, which is last year's Super Bowl aside being a blowout, we've been in a long-term streak of fantastic and competitive Super Bowls. People kind of don't really know the history of, like, in the 20th century, close to a majority of Super Bowls were simply not good games. Like, it was pretty rare. Like, it was an incredible thing to get, like, a competitive, close, exciting to the end Super Bowl. That almost did not happen. So we've been kind of spoiled, and I personally think that streak will continue in this game. I agree. I think that this is something where these teams will both be in it one way or another in the fourth quarter. Yeah, I think that the main way that we wanted to kind of break this down in terms of analysis of this matchup is kind of looking at the two sides of the ball against each other, because that's what it ultimately comes down to. The Patriots offense versus the Seattle defense, and the Seattle defense versus the Patriots offense. Or did I just say both of those things twice?
I know, I wasn't paying attention.
Or, you get what I mean. I may have just repeated myself, but you get what I mean.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think that I think we can get straight into it, talking about Seattle's offense against New England's defense. That's kind of just how it's organized in my notes. So talking about Seattle's offense, obviously, I think that if there was a Coordinator of the Year award, I think that Kubiak would be in the running for how he's deployed this offense. Obviously, it's reminiscent of the Shanahan-Kubiak tree, the wide zone, the play action, the reliance on the run game, all of those different things. But I think where Clint Kubiak has really elevated this, and I think a large part of this is related to Sam Darnold and specifically his strengths, as well as the impacts that JSN has had on this offense, is really just the explosive plays. Taking a offense that for the better part of the year was pretty inefficient in the run game, but still being able to create explosive plays around that because of how often they did. or because of how often they ran the ball.
100%. And I don't want to derail the in-game analysis or matchup entirely off the bat, but since it's the first thing you began with, we'd be remiss to not mention the fact that a pretty odd and rare situation is developing with Clint Kubiak,
Yeah.
where he is the acting offensive coordinator, of course, for the Seattle Seahawks, and yet from all the reports, it's pretty much everything but signed on paper that he's going to be the next Raiders head coach. Now, he has not confirmed or denied that at the most recent media day as of today. But that's got to be a bit odd in the locker room, knowing that it's not something like college football where this happens,
Yes.
where a team, the head coach or coordinator leaves
I
the
mean, it
team
happened this
before
year.
they play a game. It did happen this year, but the Super Bowl's a different beast in terms of
Mhm.
you're making plans and
Absolutely.
decisions on where you're going to head coach next. And obviously, interviews are happening behind the scene. That's one thing. But full on basically reports being that you have decided that you're going to do this, it's something of note, I think.
I think the Clint Kubiak head to the Raiders situation is unique in that the most recent report I read stated that John Snyder, GM of Seattle, has basically confirmed the rumors. Because I can think of times in the past where in the playoffs, and maybe not as far as the Super Bowl, but definitely, in terms of like successful teams that are still in it, that there is belief that one of the coordinators, part of the good team, is going to become a head coach of one of the, not as good teams in the NFL. And I think
Yes.
that, the writing was obviously on the wall, because if you're looking at who is left in terms of like actual viable hires that teams were looking at, and teams that haven't hired a head coach, like you could match Clint Kubiak to the Raiders pretty easily. But
Oh,
what's unique
100%.
about it is the fact that the general manager of the team who is currently employing the coordinator and future head coach has basically confirmed it.
Yeah, I think it sort of adds. It's not the only aspect of the conversation, but just in the macro, it does kind of add to the level of, and I believe Mike McDonald is a fantastic head coach, and Seattle's not going to be diving off a cliff after this year, but I think it adds a little bit of sort of like, is this the best chance Seattle, like, does this add pressure to Seattle
Mhm.
towards like, if they don't win this and then they lose this offensive coordinator who's masterminded an incredibly successful offense to put them in the Super Bowl, is confirmed out the door, and you know that as the game is being played, I think that does add pressure to Seattle.
Yeah, and I think another aspect of this, which we talked about last week, is the fact that Vrabel doesn't really have that dilemma. You mentioned because Vrabel is more offensive minded, which is true, but also because
Josh McDaniels ain't going
Josh
anywhere.
McDaniels is not going anywhere. I think that I don't believe that the overwhelming push forward to hire young offensive minds related to the head coaching cycle is not so far in the direction of favoring offensive coordinators that teams would be willing to give Josh McDaniels a third try.
No,
I
no,
think. So basically my point is I do think that Josh McDaniels is probably not going to be poached. Clint Kubiak, obviously, I think we all knew that he was putting together a season as a coordinator that would lead to him becoming a head coach, and I'm sure that Mike McDonald knew that. As far as this game, I think that Seattle is mature enough that it's not really going to impact them, um,
fair.
and so there's that. I I feel like this might actually add some pressure on Clint Kubiak too, in an interesting way. Not saying that the Raiders are going to inherently, if he has a bad game plan or something, or Seattle gets like swept under the rug and their offense can't produce, like it's not like he's going to no longer sign with the Raiders.
No.
But I do think there's an aspect related to like fans and trust and those types of things that has to be a consideration in his mind.
100%. But I mean, I just wanted to get that conversation in there. We can talk
Sure.
about the offense that he has masterminded well enough to land him a potential head coaching gig with the Raiders. Um, it's kind of a throw everything out there and see what sticks offense in terms of
Yeah.
we're going to do absolutely everything here, pretty much except for wildcat formation. We're going to run the ball down your throat, and at the same time, we're going to have the leading receiver in the NFL. That's a
Yeah.
pretty unique offensive scheme.
Yeah. I think that if there was a way I would describe the Clint Kubiak offense, it would be consistent misdirection.
Hmm, yeah.
Because the consistency lies in how often they run the ball. They have a negative 6% expected pass rate over expected. So that means that compared to everyone else in the NFL, they run the ball 6% less than you would expect. And, you saw, if you watch the games, you see that to be understood. What was interesting, as I talked about before, is how the run game hasn't always been efficient. One of the things that I made, or notes that I made, is that the usage of 21 personnel has increased pretty significantly in the last week of the season and going into the playoffs. The reason I think this is important is because they're basically saying that we are going to have a heavier personnel. 21 personnel is 2 tight ends, 1 running back. And that has worked pretty well and is part of the reason why Kenneth Walker has looked so good as of late.
Yeah. I think that the it's also such a big deal that they have a tandem that they obviously didn't have in the NFC Championship game, which is part of what made that so impressive. But in the overall view of this squad, the fact that you can have a tandem of running backs allowing them to like you're never coming into a play once you're in the middle of an NFL game at 100%, but you're still fresher when you have a tandem.
Yes.
It just increases the likelihood that because what do we say? There are X's and O's and there are Jerry's and Joe's. The X's and O
Mhm.
matter, but the players and the personnel matter as well. And when you're able to combine the two of those things, it's no wonder that the Seattle offense has been one of the better and more. Yeah, it's weird because they're a very efficient offense. At the same time, if you looked at their season-long rushing statistics, it's not the most efficient, really.
It really isn't.
But I still feel like efficient is still somehow the right word for their offense. In the macro of a game, it's an efficient
Yes.
offense because they don't shy away from it. They will just keep pounding it.
I think it's because I think the word to use describing their offense is methodical. Like
Yeah.
every single thing has an intention. Nothing is random. Every motion, every play action, every run, everything sets up the next play. And that's, I think, the beauty of this offense and why they are so unpredictable, but they're consistent in that lack of predictability. I think that, talking about the run game, um, and related to this individual matchup, I think that Seattle can have success. Now, this being said, and I'm going to talk about this a lot when I talk about the Patriots defense, it's the word discipline, because I think that this is arguably I won't, use, I guess, strong wording, but I think that this is one of, if not the best and most well coached and disciplined defenses in the NFL, especially as of late. The proof of that is because they don't, and this is true in the run game as well as the passing game, they don't really change what they're doing based on the offense. Um, Compared to the rest of the league, they run their base defense against heavier personnels more than basically everybody. And that being said, that is where the weakness of their run game comes. Like that's where you can attack them. So I think that the concept of Seattle going heavier as of late and that directly correlating with a decrease in run game defense, I think that highlights a matchup that Seattle can take advantage of. But outside of the heavier personnel, they are one of the best run defenses in the NFL, probably second only to Seattle. And the reason I bring that up is because half of the run game is discipline. It's gap discipline, it's staying in the right area. It is it's discipline. It's eye discipline. It's not getting faked out by the all of the pulls that guards and tackles will have. Like, it's staying disciplined, knowing what your responsibility is, and creating a wall without any breaks in it. That is what the Patriots excel at. And so basically what my point is while I do think that Seattle can create advantages, especially with how Kenneth Walker has been playing as of late, especially when using heavier personnel, the Patriots defense is unique compared to other defenses in that their discipline can create advantages that leads to them being able to consistently stop this run game.
Hey everyone, not to interrupt, but Adam was probably saying something really stupid, and if you agree with me, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Thank you very much. I think that is going to be the most fascinating part of this side of the ball matchup is the Seattle run game ability, because the Patriots play not a majority, obviously no one plays a majority of any scheme, but a plurality of man, which means that if this game comes down to, in terms of the storyline of this side of the ball, the run game, the X factor is the Christian Gonzalez versus JSN matchup.
Yes.
That's sort of the tipping point where if that run offense versus run defense of Seattle versus New England is essentially a wash in terms of, like, Seattle's going to get their punches, but New England is not going to absolutely crumble, then it does come down to what is the downfield weaponry of Seattle able to do. And so I'm not saying anything new or crazy here, but I can't wait to watch the Christian Gonzalez versus JSN matchup, because I think that
Absolutely.
ultimately
Well,
is what it can come down to, is one or two major JSN plays.
yes, 100%. And that's, JSN this year is in the 100th percentile in terms of yards per route run. Yards per route run basically says, and he leads the league by a mile. I've talked about this earlier, that, like, basically if you compare his numbers to, like, all time, all of the guys he's in company with played in, like, the 80s because they never ran routes, and, like, 70s. But basically the idea is that for every route he runs, he gains, I can't remember the exact number, but X amount of yards. And so the way that you can have a high yards per route run is by having a lot of receiving yards with a minimum amount of catches. And that's exactly what JSN does. He has a 9.1 explosive rate per route, which is best in the NFL. And he's specifically elite basically everywhere you put him. The story of Seattle's offense is efficiency. And I think that makes up for the lack of efficiency in the run game that we've seen throughout the season. Because that's true with, like I said, obviously JSN. Cooper Kupp is in the 56th percentile in terms of yards per route run. And Sam Darnold, for the majority of the season, was on pace to, like, set a record for the most amount of yards per attempt in the NFL until the turnovers kind of got the better of him and his play kind of fell off midway through the year.
Well,
That
I mean,
being said,
what was I can't remember over how many games it was. This was pre-playoffs in the regular season. I can't remember what the sample size was, but for the last handful of games of the season, it may have been 4, he had 8 touchdowns to 8 turnovers. It could have been 4 or 5, something in that sample size, where for the last quarter to third of the season, it was kind of like earlier on for the majority of the season, he was on pace to have some pretty impressive statistical efficiency numbers. And then that kind of hit a bit of a wall. And this is not an anti-Sam Darnold tank, because what Sam Darnold has done for his narrative, specifically in this postseason, is incredible. Like, he's pretty much eliminated the idea in my mind that it's in the cards in any serious sense that he'll have some sort of reversion to Jets Darnold. Like that's not even really factoring into my mind. He may play a poor game, but it's not going to look like the Sam Darnold
I
that
don't think
all of
so.
us had in our head. And so, but that being said, in the last handful of games of the season, there was proof that this Seattle offense could be efficient and dominant, even with a slightly above average to just average quarterback play.
Exactly. And I think that's the power of the Shanahan Kubiak scheme. But one thing that's really interesting, and I'm going to try to do my best to describe this dynamic. So, on one hand, the Patriots this year have done poorly against number one wide receivers, just generally compared to average. In terms of yards per game, receptions per game, targets per game, touchdowns per game, they're all significantly worse than league average. The reason why that's the case is because you know how I talked about disciplined? Uh, what that also means is that the Patriots defense basically doesn't change to the offense. They're not the type of team that's going to take Christian Gonzalez and shadow him across JSN the entire game. They run a lot of two-man brackets coupled with zones, cover one zone the majority of the time, and then they bracket on money downs. Um, the but what that has done, and this is what's interesting, is they are also one of the most efficient defenses in terms of stopping explosive plays and deep balls downfield. And so it creates this weird scenario where it's like, on one hand, you have this reality that they haven't performed particularly well against number one wide receivers. However, they've also done extremely well against explosive downfield plays. And so if JSN is a number one wide receiver based on how he attacks down the field,
Yeah.
you know, it leads to questions related to, like, what is this matchup going to ultimately look like? I think the key here is the idea that I talked about before with Seattle's offense, which is misdirection. I think that Clint Kubiak is going to be able to use JSN and move him around, use motions and mixed directions to be able to create matchups that favor him. And even though I don't like, I can envision a world where JSN, while he's going to be the centric focus of this passing game, is not, it's not going to be in the same way where he has it's not going to be the Randy Moss stat line, like 3 receptions for 3 touchdowns and 250 yards. Like, it's going to be more of like a higher volume, more yards after catch, getting him open in space, attacking the intermediate middle of the field. Um, that's my guess. There's another world where Clint Kubiak says it's a team game, JSN, and we're going to use you as bait. We're going to make them double team you. We're going to send you down the field. We're going to use that threat. If you get open, Darnold throw it. But if not, that leaves guys like Cooper Kupp and AJ Barner available in the middle of the field. And I also think that can be effective.
100%. And I think that at the same time, I don't disagree with you that can be a portion of the game and part of the intergame chess match on certain drives. I also don't think that you want to walk away from this game. Let's just say hypothetically the Patriots win a super tight one, and you're looking at that box score and JSN has single digit targets.
Yes.
Like that's going to leave a poor taste in a lot of people's mouths. And so I think it's a situational thing where 100% he can be used multiple times on many plays throughout the game as bait because he's earned that. Like that just is what it is. He's the number one guy for a reason. He can draw that double team and leave people open, but at a certain point he's going to have to get involved into the game and make multiple plays.
And so this is where I'll say where I think Seattle can and will take advantage, but also where I think that the Patriots can. I think that Seattle and JSN is proven the benefit, or should be given the benefit of the doubt based on his performance this year. I think that Clint Kubiak, like I said, can use motions, can use the play action to get him open downfield, field, and in the intermediate part of the field, and he's going to be able to make explosive plays. That being said, if Seattle or if the Patriots can continue this trend of basically eliminating explosive plays, or even just having very few and forcing Seattle into tight window throws into the middle of that defense, into the zone that they play, Seattle this year is 22nd in EPA per pass in tight windows. That's where I see the weakness in this passing game related to JSN that the Patriots can take advantage of.
Yeah. I'm I mean, I'm assuming that just knowing how the EPA statistics work, that a lot of that are because the tight windows that he's throwing into, they aren't just
Are
incompletions,
interceptions.
they're interceptions,
Yes.
which has massive EPA swings. And so really
Uh-huh.
what you're saying here is if Darnold throws into too tight of a window and
Yes.
throws a couple interceptions, that's how this game swings in New England's favor.
Exactly.
Which, not that we've completely, carried out all of the conversation here, but I think that kind of leads us into the natural next step of the Patriots offense versus Seattle's defense.
Well, there's actually one more thing that
Okay.
I want to
Yeah,
cover
yeah, yeah.
related to this matchup. It's more related to the pass game because I think we
Mm.
can't talk about Seattle's offense without looking at the play action, right?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
and that's kind of the logical step that follows once they, again, it's not just establishing the run, it's establishing the threat of the run. Um, Obviously they're second in the league in terms of under center rates. They're fifth in the league in terms of play action rate, but they're second in the league in terms of EPA on play action passes. The thing that I
It's how
wanted
they
to
put the
highlight though,
stranglehold on the Rams in the NFC Championship
absolutely,
game. They 100%.
absolutely.
That the threat on those last couple of drives where they were just chewing clock, where it was the same script every set of downs. They would run on the first down, and then the second down would be play action, and LA had to respect it every time, and they'd find something underneath out of the play action.
Exactly. And I think that this is where the word misdirection comes into play with this Clint Kubiak offense, because basically, if they are passing, Seattle's doing one or two things. Either they're using emotion for two reasons: A, to help them identify the coverage, and B, to create misdirection in the coverage, but then or they're going to be doing a play action pass. And so one thing I will say, and I'm trying not to give everything away, the more that I researched this, the more close I thought this game was going to be,
Hmm.
because I talked about discipline in the run game. Discipline carries through to the passing game. The Patriots this year have arguably been the best in handling motions, and this year they are the number one defense in EPA per play allowed versus play action.
Yes.
They handle play action incredibly well. They do not bite. They're an incredibly disciplined and well coached team. And so, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, this is strength on strength, and something's got to give. I lean more towards Seattle. I think I trust the system, and specifically the players like JSN, Rashid Shaheed, and honestly the scheme of Clint Kubiak more in this individual matchup. But I don't think that this is going to be a game like, and I'll say this now. I don't envision this being like a really high scoring game. Like, I think that this is going to be a game where defense is going to be able to limit stops, and scoring is going to be at a premium, at least for the vast majority of the game, unless it's like, a lot of the playoff games we've seen where it's like the first three quarters seemingly don't matter. And then in the fourth quarter, all of the offenses decide we're going to figure it out now.
I mean, there's a real possibility. In fact, of all of the choices, I'm not saying that it is, if you played the game 10 times, it would be that way, 8 times. But of all of the ways that this game could go out, I think we could easily see a version of that where the defenses are just playing to the best of their ability for the first half, even into the third quarter, and then finally adjustments are starting to kick in, and fatigue for the defenses starts to kick in, because that's just the natural course of the game flow. As fatigue kicks in, fatigue hits a defense harder than it does an offense, just objectively.
Yeah, absolutely. And um I think that to summarize this battle between the Patriots offense, or sorry, the Patriots defense versus Seattle's offense, and I think this kind of proves your point, is that the Seattle's offense dares defenses to be perfect because they're not going to change what they're going to what they're
Yeah,
going to do. They are going to say, we are going to do it, and do it over and over and over again. We're going to run the play action. We're going to run the ball. We're going to send the motion. And if you mess up once, we're going to hit you for a big play to JSN. Like, you have to be perfect in this matchup. That's what Seattle's offense demands. That's what they've demanded all year. And if the Patriots are not, then I think Seattle is going to be able to take advantage with their offense. That being said, like I talked about, the key to perfection is discipline. And that's exactly what the Patriots' strength is.
100%. I don't really have much more to add on this side of the ball. I think that if what you said is true, well, what you said is true, but if it plays out that way in this one game sample size, where a world that New England can get a couple timely turnovers, are they able to actually translate that into points? That's the
Yes,
ultimate
and
question.
I do want to say, I just got to say this. I don't like to be like negative on players, but if you watch Seattle this year, you'll notice that basically every negative play directly relates to one man, and his name is Anthony Bradford. He's the right guard for Seattle. He is one of the funniest players to watch, just because, man, dude, it's just tough. Basically, what I'm saying is that the Patriots very easily could take advantage. I expect a lot of stunts inside, specifically attacking that matchup. And I know Sam Darnold is great, or is a great quarterback. I truly believe that. I think that last year and this year proved that to be the case. That being said, interior pressure is hard to beat.
Sam Darnold's biggest skill in this game, I'll say this right now, is going to be knowing when to and immediately throw the ball away. That's going to
Exactly.
be the biggest thing that he can do to
Exactly.
help Seattle win. In terms of, like, obviously, that's one specific portion. He actually has to execute the plays. But in terms of executing this offensive scheme, I've seen it every single game this season for the most part, with really the exception of the two regular season games that they played against the Rams. And so I know that Sam Darnold can execute this scheme. The question is
Yes.
not the positive plays he can make, it's limiting the negative plays as much as possible.
Exactly. And basically my point is that I have a really sneaking suspicion where I think that's going to come from for the Patriots, and I think it's going to be the interior of the line. Because if pressure arrives early before, especially in the play action game, if pressure arrives early before Sam Darnold can roll out, that's going to lead to trouble, I think, for Seattle. And you're right, it's going to be about, in that moment, it's not going to be about, can Sam Darnold make a positive play? It's how much can he mitigate in for this play to try to keep this drive alive.
On the specific note, though, one of the things, and I'm obviously it still does happen. One of the nice things about the play action is that when there's pressure up the middle, inherently the instinct of the defender coming through is to make a move or at least hesitate and make sure that the running back doesn't have the ball. Which, like,
Yes.
naturally, when you have a play action and there's interior pressure, because the running back's coming right at the defender has to take at least half a second and say, wait, does he have the ball? Do I need to tackle him or do I go through to the quarterback? Which just allows more time for Darnold to make the right decision and either, if it's available, roll out and get outside of the pocket or just throw the ball in the dirt at the running back's feet.
Yep. Yeah.
I think that
Now I'm ready. We can move on
the
to New England's offense.
the New England offense is a fascinating one to me because
It really is.
I and because I like Drake May. I believe that Matthew Stafford is the MVP, but I think Drake May is absolutely the unquestioned runner up there. All praise to him. He's going to be an absolute stud. But I almost mean like this is going to sound like more of a compliment to Drake May than it is, because it really more so comes from a question about what New England's offense is. The offense is kind of just expecting Drake May to make the right play,
Yes.
because it's entirely, their offense is basically just zone runs in 21 personnel. And then
Yep.
Drake May, we're just anticipating that when the deep shot is available, and by deep shot, I don't necessarily mean 50 yards down the field, but 15, 20 yards down the field, you got to be accurate. Like,
Yep.
whenever that play comes, Drake, you have to hit it. And that is what is so impressive, and why Drake May has been neck and neck in MVP conversations, is because the opportunities that Drake has to have an impact on this offense are relatively limited compared to the modern versions of quarterback that we see, at least with his arms, because he's dual threat, but he's not a Lamar Jackson style dual threat. It's much closer to Josh Allen. And the fact that he's able to be so hyper efficient, I mean, he has the Patriots all-time record for completion percentage.
Yes.
Tom Brady doesn't have that. Drake May has that. That's impressive. And so I in a weird way, the Patriots offense is kind of similar in terms of like their dedication to just doing the thing that they do 100% of the time. In the same way that Seattle is, where it's like Seattle's not a McVay style flexible, like he will switch personnel on a dime. Seattle and New England are both kind of, this is our scheme, this is what we're going to do. With Seattle, it's more so all of the personnel and the movement around the quarterback. And with New England, it is the quarterback.
Absolutely. I think that this really is an interesting offense. Like, I think that how you categorized it is perfect, because it really is just like, we're going to run the ball out of 21 personnel the vast majority of the time. And then we're going to, and then from there, we're going to try the deep ball, basically, try to make explosive plays. The thing is, though, is that they pick their spots perfectly,
Yes.
specifically relating to the explosive plays. They have the highest explosive play rate in the NFL. And one thing that's really interesting about this team is that they are specifically susceptible to pressure without a blitz. Against the blitz, Drake May and this offense leads the NFL in EPA per play, which might shock you, because if you think about the weakness of Drake May, it is how he handles pressure, and we'll definitely talk about that. But the reason why, and looking back at it, I can't help but think about Tom Brady, how Tom Brady had absolutely, if someone touched him, game over, right? But the Patriots offense always had an outlet for him. And it wasn't just that they always had an outlet for him. He always made sure that there was an outlet for himself.
Yes.
That's where Drake May excels. That's why his completion percentage is so high, because when he's under pressure, he doesn't throw the ball away. He either takes a sack or throws the check down. And against blitz, because you're sending more people at him, the check down is open most of the time. And when it's open, Drake May will find it. When they don't blitz, that's where it creates this issue. And so I think that for the Patriots, it's a question of like you said, like, I do think a lot of this comes down to how can Drake May handle pressure when they're not blitzing.
Yeah, which is incredibly odd for the modern
Yes,
NFL,
it
but it
sure is.
100% is the case. I mean, that kind of transitions us right into the Seattle defense in terms of,
Yep.
and my goodness, what more can you say? The dark side is what they've nicknamed this defense and Mike McDonald's system. And it is just, I mean, it's a complex, like multifaceted 3-4 scheme. And he plays so much nickel. Like, He plays
so much.
It's like, I mean, it's almost like I know you may not know as deep because it's college football, but like Nick Saban, Alabama, like late 2000s, early 2010s defenses, how much nickel's being played. Or it's like, it's almost a renaissance of the nickel position. And the fact that they have Nick Imanware, a rookie, like doing that, so many other people have said this. You could talk about this for forever, but that is the chess matchup. Here's what you just said. When you have a nickel formation on the field, you have the opportunity anytime that's out there to blitz. And so Mike
Yes.
McDonald, that is the chess match, is when is he going to blitz?
Right. Well, and what's interesting is that he really doesn't blitz at all. Here are the
No.
numbers. Seattle's defense is 7th in the NFL in terms of pressure rate, but 28th in the NFL in terms of blitz rate.
How can you play as much a nickel as they do and blitz that little? Like, that's
Exactly.
insane.
It's like the threat of it is what's beneficial. I think that I think there's a few things whenever we're talking about the use of nickel related to Seattle's defense. The first
I'm
thing
just getting
is
excited
because
for this game talking about this. This is some fantastic
that's what I'm saying.
stuff.
It's going to be because the more, and this is why the more I did research, there was two epiphanies that came to me. The first one is this game is going to be a lot closer than we think. The second thing is that these teams are weirdly like the mirror image of each other related to each side of the ball, right? Like Seattle is the most efficient in the play action. They run the ball the most. They use motion the most. Meanwhile, the Patriots are the best defense against play action, the best defense against the motion, one of the best defenses covering the run. On the other side of the ball, you have Patriots offense, which is highly efficient against blitzes, which is highly efficient in the run game against nickel, which I haven't gotten to. But then you also have the defense that runs nickel the most, is the best run defense in nickel, and then also blitzes basically the least compared to how often they pressure. So it's like every single strength that each team has on their side of the ball throughout the season is matched by the exact same strength that the other side of the ball has. Which creates this situation where it's like, and so that's why it's frustrating when I see people say like, oh, Seattle's going to blow them out. It's like, well, what if the defense that leads the league in EPA per play against play action stops their play action?
It's also one of those things where it's like, let's just say hypothetically, Seattle does blow them out. It'll be because we witnessed a masterclass of football, like, ability. Like, either way,
Yes.
We're going to be, if you're a football fan, truly, you will be entertained by this game.
Yes. Yeah. And so I kind of want to take a step back. Let's kind of go like step by step. So Patriots offense, obviously we talked about the run game. They run the ball the majority of the time out of 21 personnel. And they specifically lead the league with a 57.7% success rate running versus the nickel. Right? So I just kind of talked about that. Meanwhile, Seattle is the number one, and specifically 21 personnel works for them pretty well. Like I said, specifically against the nickel. Seattle leads the league in EPA per rush allowed versus 21 personnel. They deploy a light box, basically a nickel package, 73.6% of the times on early downs, and are the number one defense versus the inside run. So here's the question for the Patriots running game. Can they force Seattle into a base look because the run game works well against their nickel package?
Yeah.
Here's the thing. The problem is based on what I've learned from Mike McDonald and Seattle, specifically based on how they handled 13 personnel, I don't think they will. I think they're just going to run nickel regardless.
I really, like, that's the thing where I think maybe somehow on all four sides of the ball in this game, the Patriots offensive defense and the Seattle offensive defense, They just kind of do what they do.
They just do what they do regardless. Like literally, and just to clarify, so like 13 personnel, right? 3 tight ends, right? Seattle said, "Man, screw it. We're gonna leave our defensive back in there. Nah,
And
whatever."
New England's going to run almost the exact inverse of that, which is 21 personnel with 2
Yes,
running backs and only 1 tight end. And Seattle's going to say, we're going to do the exact same thing.
we're gonna do the exact same thing because we have some dogs on our side because we are the dark side. It's
Because
just
we
this
have Nick
weird thing where it's
Eamon.
like, once again, on both sides of the ball, it's what is it? It's like a immovable object versus
An unstoppable force.
exactly. Like at some point, something's got to give here, and it's really hard to predict what's going to happen. But that's the run game. I think again, if the Patriots can force Seattle into a base package, it can open up the run game, open up the outside run game, and potentially create again an explosive play out of the running game. That's really where Travion Henderson has made his mark on this offense. And I think that if the Patriots are able to run the ball up the middle effectively, then enough to the point where somehow Mike McDonald says, okay, we are going to run a heavier package that will open up the outside. I think that that's what, if you're Josh McDaniels, that's what you're thinking.
That is what you're thinking if you're Josh McDaniels. If you're Mike McDonald, here's what you're thinking. It's the ever-present, and that the number's gone down a little bit, but it's still an insane statistic when you look at it across the history of football. If you get sacked on a drive, your chance of scoring a touchdown on that drive drop to like in the teens in terms of percentage.
Yes.
The goal here for Seattle, because like you said, what is surprisingly, because he's like a Josh Allen prototype in terms of his physical ability, what is Drake May's biggest weakness? It's taking sacks and not
Yes.
getting rid of the ball. The goal for Seattle here is if it's first or second down and we sack you and you're behind the sticks and you're in like a 2nd and 18 or a 3rd and 13, because of our nickel coverage, but the fact that we don't blitz combined with that, mean that your chance of executing a 15-yard pickup or a 10-yard pickup are just decreased inherently by the numbers game of we're not throwing an extra guy into the pass rush. We're winning the numbers battle, and we have great personnel on top of the numbers battle. And so, yeah, if you want to pick up a dink and dunk check down and get 6 yards on a 3rd and long, sure. It doesn't matter. And so if New England gets behind the sticks on drives and then are put in a situation where they have to dink and dunk their way out of it, that's actually what's going to be key here, is I think you're going to have multiple drives where that happens. You're in a 3rd and long or a 2nd and long, and you dink and dunk your way to like a 4th and 2 or a 4th and 1. That's my one of my not hot takes or random predictions, but just a game flow thing I think is going to happen. New England's going to have multiple heavy pressure, high leverage situations where they're in 4th and shorts. Do they go for it, and do they get them? Because of the nature of the Seattle defense forcing you to dink and dunk.
Exactly. And I think that like I guess more macro level question is Drake May willing to do that or able to do that when they're not sending pressure, kind of like the numbers game that you talked about. So talking about the Patriots passing game, you kind of explained it perfectly, that it's dink and dunk, dink and dunk, dink and dunk, deep ball.
Yep.
And the thing is that they're incredibly efficient at it. Drake May arguably had the best season in terms of in the NFL related to his accuracy and how efficient he was on the deep ball or related to the deep ball and those types of passes. And I think that is a place where the Patriots kind of have to live, in this game, as unpredictable, as unsustainable as we say. Like, one of the things that we were criticizing the Eagles offense all year was the over reliance on the deep ball, but in a 1 game sample size, I don't think it's a terrible approach. And here's why: because the Seattle defense versus in the intermediate part of the field is the best defense in the league. Versus the short throws, they're arguably the best defense in the league. The other team that I would consider potentially better is the Texans, because of the rally ability and just how quickly, right, how ferociously they attack the short pass. And but they're kind of mid-tier versus the deep ball. Like, I think that is where you can attack. That's actually coincidentally kind of the makeup of the Texans defense, but I think that's where you can attack them. I think we saw that's where the Rams had a lot of success. I think that
100%.
we've seen other teams have success more deep down the field. I think that this is going to be that Seattle's defense wants it to be exactly how you laid out, where it's like, let's force them not to stay ahead of the chains. Let's force pressure on Drake May rushing 4 people. Let's force them to throw the short pass, and let's rally. And if we can do that, then I think the Patriots are going to struggle immensely. That being said, there's 2, and so like I said, like, the first place I think that Patriots can take advantage is in the deep ball. The second is specifically using Drake May's legs, which I think has been the story of the playoffs for the Patriots offense, because other teams have realized, oh, wait a minute, we can attack the Patriots by rushing 4 and not blitzing that often. Drake May has totally made teams pay. Here's the difference. And, I think it's a little bit different with the Texans, but I think that Seattle has, from a personnel perspective, is better equipped to handle the Drake May scramble compared to other teams, and probably every team in the NFL.
That is 100% true. I think this is also a point, since we're getting into the Drake May playoff discussion. This is the first playoff run that we've seen of Drake May. And and I want to have a balanced discussion here, so this is not coming out as antagonistic, and you know this, but some people, there's a lot of context for all 3 of the games that the Patriots have played and won to make this Super Bowl. The Chargers one, as weird as it is simultaneously, like, it's the most normal sample size relative to this game, but with that being the case, you're not exactly inspired, because the last 2 games that the Patriots have played have been insanely affected by weather, which is not going to be a factor objectively. We know that in Santa Clara, California. Like,
True.
that's not in the forecast. We know that's not going to be occurring. And so, because of that, you do have to wonder, you've gone, the last time that the Patriots played a football game without weather heavily affecting the entirety of their scheme is now a month ago. It's 4 weeks ago.
Basically.
From when they kick off, it will have been 4 weeks since the last time that they played a football game in normal football-esque conditions. That's a little interesting in terms of, and that's also why Drake May was so important utilizing his legs, because of the snow in Denver and the rain in Houston, of just, it's not worth me attempting a deep ball and a ball slipping out of my fingers because it's wet, or it being accurate coming off of my hand. I'm just going to tuck this thing and run. And that's the right call in that moment. That is going to be the right call in less moments in this game, objectively.
Yes, I think that's true.
What does that mean for the efficiency of the Patriots offense?
Yeah. And I think I brought this up whenever we were previewing the Broncos-Patriots game, but I just want to quickly shout it out again. Drake May's splits in a clean bucket versus under pressure is scary for the Patriots. His completion percentage drops 20%. His EPA per play drops 0.63. His success rate drops 23%, and his touchdown to interception ratio goes from 7.3 to 1 to 1.8 to 1. Basically a 2 to 1 ratio. The fact of the matter is that if there's one weakness or thing, I guess you could, instead of saying weakness, I'm going to say opportunity for growth that Drake May has coming out of the season. It's how he handles pressure. And like I said, the fact that all of this compares with the number one EPA versus the blitz, what that tells me is, again, that the Patriots and Drake May specifically struggle exceedingly against pressure that's not coming from a blitz.
And
And
this is a
so the
Seattle
question
defense
is,
that was fourth in the league in pressure rate at 38% and second in the league in pass rush win rate at 50%.
exactly. And so that's where it's like, here's how I think that the Patriots can take advantage. I don't think that the Patriots will win this game in a shootout if it comes down to that. I think that if the Rams couldn't do that, then the Patriots sure can't.
Yes.
But that being said, let's argue that it's not, right? And we're saying what can this offense do to be the first team to score 20 points, let's say? I think that it's short passes that generate yards after catch. It's the running game staying ahead of the chains on first down. It's scrambles that flip leverage and basically create hesitation within pass rushers. And then finally turning the pressure into explosive plays. Like if I were to guess how a touchdown drive would go in this game, it's going to include a short pass that generates yards after catch. It's going to include consistent winning on first downs, even just getting 3 yards. It's going to include 1 or 2 plays where Drake May is able to extend the play with his legs, and it's going to include an explosive play downfield.
Yes. In terms of now that we've kind of covered both of these sides, one of the macro things that I think has to be discussed is that, and this is true for any football game, obviously. I'm not breaking any news to anyone and throwing out some hot take in terms of the importance of the turnover margin.
Yes.
The turnover margin in this Super Bowl is going to be so critical for both sides because both of these offenses, Seattle and New England, have the capacity to, and built into their scheme, they want to eat time. They will
Yes.
devour time. And so it's not simply in losing the turnover margin that you lose a possession to gain points and give a possession to gain points to the other team. It's that on top of that, that other team gets the ball, and then they can also make 6, 7, 8 minutes disappear from the game clock. You have 60
Absolutely.
minutes in this Super Bowl in regulation. If it goes to overtime, oh man, an all-time classic is in due. But 60 minutes of regulation. And if you give the ball up to either one of these teams, the way that their offense is designed is to just put you in a stranglehold. And even if they don't get any points out of it, the fact that, or even if they have to settle for 3, the fact that they can just make time disappear from the clock is so terrifying if you're on the other side of the ball and the side that turned the ball over.
I'm just going to say what everyone's been thinking. Jonathan, shut your mouth. If you agree with me, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and share this with someone so that they can hear how stupid Jonathan sounds. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's 100% true. Especially just because I think that that's kind of the keys, and again, like, to your point, like, obviously this can't be, overstated, or this might feel redundant, but like, if you're looking at the Seattle offense and the weakness of it, you would point to turnovers. And I think if you're looking at the weakness of Drake May, it's negative plays that lead to turnovers. And so, I definitely think that that's going to be a key to this game. It's going to be a big aspect of this game. Um,
Well, and
I
in this
also
game,
think
here's
that,
the thing, and I know this is an unfair thing to say. What evens this out is that, because I actually think that Seattle can lose the turnover margin and still overall, not by an insane amount, but be fine in this game. Because if you're the Patriots offense, you almost have to count 3 and outs as essentially a turnover. I think
yeah,
that's a big thing. I think that Seattle's offense there's a lot that goes into that conversation. But if you're New England and on the first play of a drive, you're getting behind the sticks, or you're just not converting on plays, you get in a 3rd and long situation, and then blink of an eye, that drive is over. The ball's right back in Seattle's hand. You cannot have more 3-and-outs, or at least enough 3-and-outs that accumulate over the game. That, for all intents and purposes, should count as a turnover if you're New England.
Absolutely. And one thing I do want to say, which is kind of funny, because continuing this trend of strength on strength, these are 2 of the arguably best special team units in the NFL.
Yes.
I just gotta say, like, I can't help but notice that
You gotta
every
shout out your
single
boy.
matchup.
You gotta shout out your
Yeah,
boy.
Rashid Shaheed, dude, I'm telling you. But no, like, this really is, like, these are 2 incredible teams on special teams that more than once in this season have won games because of it. Like, and so I don't know. I don't know if that means that it's just gonna like negate out, or if one team's gonna have the advantage.
What do you think? I have a legitimate question, because this is something I
What?
should have done research on this to actually know what if Seattle does this strategically or if it's just by coincidence. What do you think the likelihood is that Seattle wins the tip and they elect to receive, just for the chance that they can just have a crippling blow right into the heart of New England with a Raheed Shaheed
With
kickoff
Rashid?
return?
Oh my gosh.
It's
I
not
actually
high,
don't know. I don't
but
think so. Like, I think that they would lean towards
I think that they
deferring, but
should. But if Seattle comes out, wins the
yeah.
coin toss, and elects to receive, I almost don't care what they do. Like, that fires me up if they do, because they just want to
Mhm.
come out and put up points on the board. And if they come out and do that, I'm like, oh man, the boys are fired up
Yeah,
today.
I agree. So what do we want to do next? Because one thing we did was we kind of created, or we made a few predictions, like each of us independently made some predictions, generally about game flow, about maybe some individual players, those types of things. Do you want to talk about those, or do you want to just make our final predictions for the game?
Um,
I kind of feel like we should just make our predictions because it feels obvious at this point.
yes, let's make our predictions. Adam, give me your case.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think it's obvious. I am picking Seattle in this game. Like I said, I do think that it's really close, and and I really do think that, like, when you look at it, like, there are clear matchup advantages. Not advantages, but like, the Patriots match what Seattle is trying to do exceedingly well. Um what I can't get out of my head though is just the fact that I think that Seattle is the team where, like, I think that Seattle is the team that is going to dictate the structure of this game, and the Patriots are going to be more reactionary. So, like, what I wrote was that New England wins by breaking structure, and Seattle wins by refusing to let structure break.
Mm, I think that's a great
Basically,
way to put it.
I think that Seattle has this opportunity to dictate the pace of the game on offense. I think that from a personnel perspective, that the weapons, specifically JSN, can be a game changer. I think that Kenneth Walker can be a game changer. I think that Clint Kubiak is going to be able to move Sam Darnold out of the pocket, which is going to mitigate some of the issues that the offensive line has in the interior, as well as the strength of Milton Williams
Mhm.
and the interior pass rush of the Patriots. And then defensively, I really do think that, like, again, and I personally think Drake May probably should win MVP, but that doesn't mean that I don't think that there is an inherent weakness in Drake May's game this season that can really be taken advantage of by Seattle. And specifically the fact that he doesn't perform well under pressure. And again, they're not, I can say confidently they're not going to win this game by 5-yard throws.
Yes.
I think that the Patriots can, kind of break the structure, if you will, by creating explosive plays, but I don't see that being enough to overcome the consistency that I think Seattle's offense will bring to this game. Um, So yeah, I
Yeah.
think I'm going with Seattle.
I I have to admit defeat, and I have to honor you in this moment, Adam, because on account of my selection to pick the Seattle Seahawks, I officially surrender this year's game.
Victory is sweet.
For the people at home, we've been playing a game all season where we predict every single game that is played in the NFL season. In the regular season, you got 1 point for a win, 0 points for a loss. We had upset alerts, which were big point swings based on underdog predictions, all of that type of stuff. Heading into the playoffs, I was leading by 1 point, one game. And heading into this game, I am losing by effectively one game's pick. But I will not surrender my principle of a pick purely in an attempt to win. I have to pick Seattle here. And the main reason is when we looked at these matchups, like you said, I think this game will be closer than people are anticipating, more likely than not. But on both sides of the ball in these matchups, I give the slight edge to Seattle. And if that is the case for both sides of the ball, I can't conceivably pick the Patriots. I think that Seattle has more capacity to put up points. I think Seattle has the capacity, like you said, to set the tone. Barring Raheed Shaheed magic, whether they're receiving the ball in the first half or in the second half, the capacity for Seattle to get that kickoff and then just eat up 7 minutes, 8 minutes of the clock and cap it off with a touchdown, and you're Drake May sitting on the sideline and you just have to watch, and then the pressure to immediately come back out there and respond. And I think that there will be certain points in this game which Drake May does respond, but I don't think he will be able to do it every time. And like you said, that is not a reflection on Drake May's ability as a quarterback in a vacuum or compared to Sam Darnold. But it does ultimately mean that I have to go with Seattle in this game.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I just, it's such an interesting matchup. Like, I just can't get over the fact that like every strength, it really felt like every time I found a strength for one team, I then looked at like how that team defends the strength, and it was always like, oh, they're just casually the best at
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Do we want to get into just a handful of kind of specific predictions that we have in this
Sure.
game, Adam? Why don't you go ahead and
Yeah.
start us off?
Yeah, I think that the Patriots will record at least 3 sacks in this game. Like I
Oh,
talked
wow.
about before, and it's kind of funny because I just picked Seattle and I'm immediately making a pick that like, or a prediction that favors the Patriots. Obviously, I don't think that this will change the outcome of the game for the Patriots. But I just think kind of like what I talked about before, like there's an aspect of it where I can't help but think about when the Chargers like players came up and was like, yeah, we had no idea what was going on. Like, I think that Vrabel is going to be able to cook up some stunts in the middle. That's going to be able to, and you know, it happened in the Rams game, right? In the NFC Championship where Sam Darnold, like, he was doing the play action and before he could even turn around, he was getting sacked. Like, I think that there could be a situation like that. I think that Anthony Bradford could miss. I think that there's like enough. I think that that's enough an advantage for the Patriots that it is going to make an impact in the game and will lead to at least 3 sacks.
Okay. One of my predictions is, and I'm also kind of at a similar course for you, where this kind of favors the Patriots in a sense, even though I'm picking Seattle, really more just signaling that I think this will be a closer game. I don't think either quarterback in this game throws for more than 260 yards.
Yeah,
I
I like
don't
that.
think that any quarterback will break that passing yards number, which, as I signaled, does somewhat favor New England. As weird as it is, Drake May has not been a passing yards accumulator. He's been a dink and dunk guy and then hit the handful of explosive plays with such efficiency. But I mean, how many weeks into the season was it? I mean, he only has one 300-yard passing game in his career. I
Yeah.
can't even remember what the 1 week it was that he did it, but it wasn't until late in the season. That's just not Drake May's game, or at
It was
least
the
this
Jets
evolution.
probably, right?
I
Because
don't
he had
think it
like a
was though,
crazy.
but maybe it
Was it
was.
not? I don't know. Whatever.
I think that was something where he had like 5 touchdown passes, but it wasn't even 300 yards though. I could be wrong
That's
though.
crazy.
Point being, that's as weird as it is because I think we all agree Drake May is a better quarterback than Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold is probably more likely to lead the game in passing yards just based off the scheme. And so if neither one of these quarterbacks reach that mark, that does favor New England. But I think that's just the way this game goes. I think this is a game where drives eat up a lot of the clock. It's heavy run scheme for both sides of the ball. And yeah, I think it's not that it's going to be some sort of slugfest like we've seen fully for New England's games that they've played so far in these playoffs, but it's not going to be the full-on explosive offensive outputs that we've seen
Yes.
on Seattle's side. There's going to be a meeting in the middle here for these teams.
Yeah. What's funny is that actually directly ties into my next. This is more of a hotter take, but it's kind of broad. I don't think a quarterback is going to win Super Bowl MVP.
Wow.
Um, it kind of goes actually exactly into what you were just saying, which is, I just think that like, and I think that for a few reasons because first off, if I had to guess, like if I were to bet, I'd bet JSN. I think that JSN in this game is going to be incredibly impactful. And if you're a quarterback who gets 260 yards and basically like over 100 of those are to JSN and there's a few touchdowns in there, like it's his, right? The other thing too is I think that there's a big opportunity for defenders to make big plays in big moments and actually win Super Bowl MVP, which I think will be cool. Uh, you know, uh,
Yeah.
a Nick Emanware Super Bowl MVP? No.
I don't want to say it.
Demarcus
I
Lawrence Super Bowl MVP?
I'm not betting money on this. I'll go ahead just because you'll enjoy it and it builds exactly off what you said. I agree with you, but I'm getting hotter. I Kenneth Walker the third, Super Bowl
You think it's gonna
MVP.
be? See, I could see that. I really could.
I think that Kenneth Walker is going to have a game where he's going to be right around 100 yards. And I could easily see him, one of them coming from explosive plays, and then like the other two are vulture plays, but he has like 3
Yeah.
touchdowns. Like there's a
Yes.
world in which Kenneth Walker could have every single touchdown in this game, or like 3 of the 4. Every
Right.
single
Well, I
Seattle
also
touchdown in this game.
I also think that, and one thing I didn't even mention that you can't talk about everything, but Kenneth Walker has been an animal out of the backfield in the passing game recently.
Exactly.
Like I could easily see him have over 150 scrimmage yards.
Yes. 100%. If
100%.
if Kenneth Walker has over 125 scrimmage yards and certainly 3 touchdowns, but maybe even 2 is, let's say it's like, let's say he has like 140 scrimmage yard, 2 touchdowns, and the second touchdown is like a game winner, basically. Or on a drive, like a game-winning drive, or the touchdown that ices the game. I think unless Sam Darnold is on top of that, having like 300 yards passing and 3 passing
Yes.
touchdowns, I think that you would by default give it to Kenneth Walker. And so that's why I'm saying Kenneth Walker Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah. One of the ones I wrote down that's really frustrating because I saw literally a post today of maybe it was like, I don't know who it was, but it was some Seattle player talking about how they're like practicing trick plays or something like that. Did
Mm-hmm.
you see that? That's really frustrating to me because I wrote down 2 days ago, I think Seattle's going to run a trick play. I was just like, it's the, Clint Kubiak, Kyle Shanahan tree. Like that's what they do. Like,
Yeah. You think
cause I
Cooper Cup
also,
throws
cause,
a touchdown?
all of the reasons, yeah, something like that. All of the reasons
What
for
if,
why I
oh my
believe
goodness,
Seattle
what if Cooper Kupp wins Super Bowl MVP?
he has like a passing, rushing, and
He
receiving
gets
touchdown.
2 of them. Who would he be the first person in NFL history to win 2 Super Bowl MVPs for two? No, Peyton Manning would have. Or no, Manning
Oh, for
didn't
two
win it
different
with Denver.
teams. No,
I
he
don't think
didn't. No,
he did.
Von
No,
Miller
no,
did.
no, no. It was Von Miller. Would he be the
I'm not
first?
sure. Maybe.
That would almost like,
Um,
as weird of a career as he's had, you'd almost have to be in the Hall of Fame for
Hall
that.
of Fame, right?
The
One
weirdest
thing,
route to Hall of Fame ever.
yeah, just like messed around and in the same division, no less. Um, but basically, what my point is that I think everything I talked about is how, in this matchup is how Seattle just like doesn't break structure. There's
Mhm.
also a part of me that's like, what if Seattle just like from the get-go does? Like, what if this whole entire time Seattle's like, -6% run rate or pass rate over expected was them saying, like, if we can do the bare minimum with the least amount of really like pizzazz, I guess you could say, in our offense and make it to the Super Bowl, when we get to the Super Bowl, we are going full Ben Johnson.
Well, what if we bring it full circle and say Clint Kubiak? He's like, yeah, I'm out the door after this. I have literally no reason to believe anything in the playbook. Not only is it the Super Bowl, but I'm out of
Yeah,
here. I'm just gonna throw everything that I
everything.
have. Every single thing that I have ever conceived in my offensive genius mind. Oh man, you're getting me excited.
Could go crazy.
I will make one more, and I'll say this is like a hyper niche prediction. I think Drake May has a play where not like fumbling the snap, but he gets like it's not a strip sack, but the ball stripped from him while he's in the pocket. He picks it up and he makes like some impressive positive play out of it. Whether he picks the ball up and throws it or picks it up and runs 20 yards, I think Drake May is going to have the ball wrenched from his hands and he somehow finds a way to get it back and does something crazy. And I think that's the peak of Drake May in this game is him doing that, and you're saying, "Wow, this guy is just like a freak."
What's funny about that is how similar my last one is compared to yours. It's a different player. Mine is Kenneth Walker. I think Kenneth Walker is going to have one of those, he's going to run for like 11 yards for a first down, but in reality, he ran like 50 yards. Like, I think he's going to have, because like Kenneth Walker, if you're watching Kenneth Walker throughout his career, the biggest question mark related to his play is his vision, because
Yes.
like he has the explosiveness, he has the break tackle ability, but oftentimes you'll see him hesitate too long. He's not quick to the field. Like that's why Charbonnet is such a great tandem with Kenneth Walker, is because
Mhm.
Charbonnet is the exact opposite. He says, "I'm going to run at the hole whether there is someone there or not."
Yeah.
Kenneth Walker sometimes doesn't have, elite enough vision. He's actually gotten a lot better of that as of late. But I could just see this. I'm just envisioning this play where Kenneth Walker takes like, it's just like a run to the left, and there's like absolutely no one there, and he just like, and just completely runs
Yeah, it's a
around.
run where it's so like the guard pulls out to the left, but it's like there's just a wall there, and Kenneth Walker is just like, huh, and runs the other
Just
way.
turns around. Oh my
Yep.
gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's my last prediction as well.
I like that. That's a fun little. You're saying that we're going to get a Kenneth Walker 30-yard, 8-yard run.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love
Exactly.
that. I love that.
Um, but yeah, no, I think that's all I have. I think it's going to be a great Super Bowl.
I think this is fantastic. I mean, the next time that we record this podcast, Adam, the season will be over. The 2025-2026 NFL season will
Yep.
be in the books, and we will have a new Super Bowl champion, a reigning
Yeah,
world
pretty insane.
champion.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, take that, Noah Lyles. Yeah, American sports. Oh, you call yourself the world champions. I'm restarting
Literally.
that debate. That's from like 3 years ago. It still makes me mad. Yeah, we are the world
It
champions.
really
We're the
does,
only one who
though.
plays
Like,
the
yeah.
sport.
Well, there's Canada. I'm sorry. I'm just kidding. Relax. Everybody calm down.
That's not a real thing. That's not
That's
real
not a real
football.
country. They don't
That's
actually
not.
exist.
That's not a real. Well, I mean, that might be part of America here soon if certain national policy is enacted.
Whoa.
By
True.
some of the top brass. We might nationalize the Canadian Football League, the CFL.
Yeah. I love the idea of not talking about it directly as it relates to the NFL.
Like we annex Canada, and it's like, so what happens to the CFL? Do we get their guys? What do we
is
do?
it like a minor league? Like, does each team get a team? Like the code
maybe that helps solve college sports, where it's like, stop turning college sports into the minor leagues. Make the CFL the minor leagues.
Exactly. No, that's a good idea. I'm just gonna say it before, or after you comment, subscribe, tell us what you think. Tell us if you think we're wrong. Tell us if you think you're right. If we're right, tell us why. Before you do, or after you do all that, I think you should go watch Von Miller highlights. He was deciding between Seattle and the Commanders. So also former Super Bowl MVP. Go watch his highlights. He's just incredible. Incredible.
Yeah.
But remember, first comment, and subscribe.
Well, folks, I hope that you have a lovely Super Bowl watching experience this Sunday. I hope you're with family or friends enjoying the sport that we all love and partake in. And you have a good one, folks. Peace.